couple of years ago, I had a message from Alistair in Scotland who suggested I take a look at the Redshift Shockstop stem. So I contacted Redshift, they kindly sent one over for review and I fitted it to my bike. Now I have to be honest and say that I was a little bit underwhelmed, I suppose, but that was until I realised how this thing is subtly working in the background. What you don't want is a stem that's bouncing up and down. That's counterproductive. But what you are looking for is something that will take the shocks out. And this becomes much more noticeable when you go back to a bike without it. Now my Ribble CGR e-assist doesn't have the Shockstop stem. And during this recovery from COVID, I've been riding that bike quite a bit. And do I notice the absence of the Shockstop stem? Now, one person that couldn't benefit from the stem was Wendy, and on the many gravel rides we do, she'd be taking a lot of punishment through her wrists and through her arms, whereas I would be having a nice comfortable ride. The reason she couldn't benefit is because the shortest stem that Redshift offered was 80mm. But that's all changed now because they've introduced a 70mm and even a 55mm suspension stem. And you may ask why it's taken so long for them to come up with this. And the reason is they've had to redesign the system from the ground up, as it were. And that, of course, is due to basic physics in that with the shorter stem, the leverage is shorter. Therefore, it takes more force for it to operate. So knowing that Wendy had a need, Redshift kindly sent over a pre-launch 70mm stem for Wendy to try. Now what you get in the box when the stem arrives is obviously the stem itself, and as with all Redshift products, it's extremely well engineered and beautifully finished. You'll have this bag of assorted elastomers that I'll come to shortly, and a detailed instruction leaflet. And that instruction leaflet is going to give you guidance on which elastomers you need for a particular weight. As in all things with Redshift, personal tastes vary, so you've got plenty of elastomers there if you want to go either side of the recommendation. An elastomer is a polymer spring, and the way that Redshift have incorporated these into the new stem is quite ingenious in what is almost, I guess, a cartridge. So you can add the elastomers according to the weight, then you simply slide that cartridge into the stem, making sure you've got it the right way round. And as you tighten the stem onto the handlebar, that provides the preload. So I arranged to pop over and fit this to Wendy's bike. It took me a total of 10 minutes. It's a very easy job to do. Once I'd got the stem torqued up correctly and it provided the preload, with me pushing on it, you could definitely see the movement. But obviously with Wendy being lighter, I wasn't sure if the setup would be right for her. So once I'd fitted it, we went out for a 27-mile ride over some mixed terrains, some bumpy roads, a little bit of off-road, and this is how Wendy got on. So I've now fitted the suspension stem to Wendy's bike, fitted really easily. The thing to note is that as you tighten up the bolts, it adds the compression on the preload. I set it up for the recommendation for Wendy's weight. I think it seems about right. What's your thoughts? We've ridden about, what, 15 miles on it so far. Have you noticed anything?
In some ways you think it's no different, but then in other ways you realise that you're not jolting the same way. Yeah. You know, when you're going over bumps and things, it just feels more gradual. Yeah. So it sort of takes a lot of the impact out. So yeah, it's really good.
And I think the thing to bear in mind, I think I said to you before, you don't notice this until you haven't got it.
Yeah.
Now today I'm riding the Ribble and I don't have the Shockstop stem on this, and I really notice every little vibration, every bump. And I really notice the difference when I get back on the Tempest that has got the Shockstop stem. I'm pleased to say that she found that setup absolutely perfect. So going by the instructions, it was spot on for her. I'm sure the market for the shorter stem isn't massive. So kudos to Redshift for actually making a shorter stem. And as I said earlier, it's taken them a complete redesign to come up with this. And it would have been very easy, and I'm sure many companies would have taken the easy route and said, let's not bother, you know, we've got our main market covered. Now, we're riding gravel bikes and the need for a Shockstop suspension stem is pretty obvious. However, one market I don't think is quite as obvious is that of road cycling. The roads here in the UK leave a lot to be desired. Sometimes it feels like you're riding gravel when you're riding the road. So if you're riding a lightweight bike with narrow tyres, you're going to feel all that road buzz, you're going to feel every imperfection in the road. And for a relatively small weight gain, you're going to gain a lot more in terms of lower fatigue on the bike due to less stresses on your arms and so on. So I would say it's certainly worth a look. And a big benefit of the Redshift stem using the polymer springs is that unlike a coil spring, the movement is much more damped. So when you're maybe standing up and putting pressure on the bar, you're not going to be wasting energy as you would say in a traditional suspension system with a standard spring. And you can afford to have a look because Redshift offer a very generous 90-day returns policy. So if you're not happy with the product during that 90 days, you can send it back and they'll give you a full refund. Not only that, returns are free, as is delivery. And probably more importantly, if you use my code in the description, you'll get a meaningful 15% discount. That also helps this channel because we'll get a small commission as well. So I hope you have found this useful. If you don't already use the Redshift stem, I'd certainly suggest you have a look at it, even if you just take it for the trial. If you like this sort of content, I'd be really grateful if you'd subscribe. It's totally free. And if you don't want to subscribe, that's fine. But I really would like you to give us a like because that really does help. So thanks very much for watching and I hope you'll join us next time. Bye for now.